Welcome to the Gmail Mobile Hangout. We're going to start by introducing the Googlers, and then we're going to introduce the users who agreed to come and talk to us today about how they use Gmail Mobile. So let's go ahead and start with, from left to right on my screen, Nadav and Brittany.
Hi, I'm Brittany. I'm a product specialist for mobile Gmail, so I work with both Nadav and Matthew, who will introduce themselves as well.
Hi, I'm Nadav. I'm part of the Android team. I'm a product manager for Gmail and Calendar and general productivity on Android.
Hi, I'm Matthew. I'm product manager with Gmail, primarily responsible for mobile web and iOS.
Great. So that's our Gmail team that's here today, and we'll go ahead and have the users introduce themselves too, maybe starting with Manny.
Hi, I'm Manny, live in Westcliff-on-Sea in Essex, and I use Playbook, BlackBerry, and near anything else that comes to hand.
Great. How about Philippe?
Hi, I'm Felipe. I'm from Brazil, and I use Gmail on my Nexus S and Android, and I use it more than the desktop version. That's it.
Great. And how about James?
I'm James. I'm from London in the UK, and I use Gmail on my beautiful Galaxy Nexus, lovely phone, and also I use it on a Android tablet, on a Sony Android tablet, which I'm waiting for Ice Cream Sandwich on, but it's coming soon.
Excellent. Let's go ahead and have Jessie introduce herself too.
Hi there, I'm Jesse from Toronto, and I'm using I'm the iPhone user among us here, iOS, iPhone 4S, iPad 2, and you know what, I do actually have a Galaxy Nexus as well, so I'm not completely foreign to the whole world of Android, and it's been tempting me every day since I picked it up to make the switch.
Switch.
Do it. Go ahead, Kim.
Hi, I'm Kim Beasley. I'm out of St. Louis, and I have a Droid phone. It is a HTC Evo, and then I have a Droid tablet, HTC Evo also, and I use Gmail on my desktop and laptop. So everything is synergized into Gmail. Even my POP accounts I pull into Gmail.
Great. We'll talk a little bit about using mail from different sources too. And Remy?
Hi, I'm Remy. I'm from the Netherlands. I'm an email marketer, actually a community manager at an email marketing company here. And I use HTC Desire for about a year and a half, or nearly 2 years now, with Android of course, and an iPad for all my mobile email.
Great. So we definitely have a lot of different devices here. We have cell phones, we have tablets, we have Android, we have iOS. So let's maybe dig a little bit more into how you guys use them. So Felipe, was it you who uses your Android, or sorry, not your Android, your mobile device more than you said you use the desktop?
Yes, I use mobile more.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit about like how that is?
Well, I really like the Gmail app. It's easy to use. I like that I can sync my emails so I can see it offline, and it's pretty easy to use. I can have almost all the functions I wanted. It's it's good. I use it more because I'm rarely at home or with a desktop PC, so I'm always using it to work for my personal email, and I don't have any complaint about the Gmail app.
Have you found that it's different between like what you do on your phone versus what you do when you have a computer, or have you used mobile so much that you'll write the same way or reply the same way, or like are your workflows any different?
No, actually, I think I got used to the mobile app, so I use it in the same way. I don't feel any different.
Yeah. Is there anyone else who has a different experience with kind of the way that you use your phone or your tablet being different from the way that you use your computer?
I'm probably the reverse, actually, in that I'm kind of a desk-bound person most days, being a writer and doing a lot of writing work and having a 2-year-old at home. But the long and short of it is I use the Gmail Chrome browser extensions and stuff extensively. I prefer it from the point of view of that a lot of these sort of advanced features are only available on the desktop. Thinking the labs features, things like superstars, things like the ability to mark things as important or unimportant, and even some of the simpler stuff like the remove label feature. Like I use the smart labels with the bulk label, for example, and go through there kind of in the morning. And it's much quicker to sort of zip through there and remove labels right from there than it is on the mobile app, just that's really not available. That said, the mobile app on the go is much better than any of the other sort of IMAP-based solutions out there, and I funnel all of my email into my Gmail account through forwarding and whatever else, so I kind of have one inbox to rule them all in that regard.
I thought it looked like Nadav was going to say something for a second, but maybe it just was the microphone stealing focus. Or when we were talking about important marking things. No? All right. Kim, we lost you there for a second. What about you? Is the way that you use Gmail on your mobile different from the way that you use Gmail at your desktop? And you said you also aggregate your accounts.
Yes, it's different because when I'm on the go, I need to be able to access all of my email accounts. And so I have my pop email accounts coming into my Gmail so that I can keep in connection with the clients that I have. And then on my mobile device, I like to use it. It also controls all of my contacts on my phone. So I love that. If I need to restore my computer to my tablet or my phone to the factory state, then I never have to worry about my contacts. They're always in Gmail, and I love that.
Yeah, that's really awesome. Love it.
It's definitely a handy feature, especially if you're using multiple different devices and everything.
And on the contact side, I should add that even on the iOS side, I'm extensively using the Exchange Active Sync features, Google Sync, so that my contacts, my Google Calendar are sort of there in the native apps as well, which is also a big help.
You guys are mentioning kind of like these different accounts. Do you do anything? I was telling a story before we went live that now that I have all of my email accounts on my phone, when I leave work, my work can follow me because I have my work email on my phone. So I have my own strategy for coping with that, which is turning off notifications for my work account. So I can check it if I need to, but I'm not always being dinged. Do you guys find you have different, has having your mail with you all the time affected the way that you work? And do you have any strategies, or do you just like getting it all the time?
Well, I had learned a long time ago that I carry a cell phone or mobile device for my convenience, not for anybody else's, as I like to say. So my rule of thumb is actually that I turn off notifications entirely on my devices in terms of things that buzz and beep and bling me. One thing I do like about the Galaxy Nexus and the ICS implementation is that priority inbox is supported. And in that respect, that's a really nice feature because, usually if it's in my priority inbox, weekend or not, it's something I want to look at. Everything else, I get a lot of press releases, I get a lot of routine emails. That stuff is, low priority anyway. I certainly don't want to be notified of, every new one of those that comes in. So as a rule, the whole sort of push email thing from a notification point of view, the people I work with, they know that it's important. They can call me. They can text me. There's other ways to get a hold of me for important stuff. Email, for me, it's, I will check it when I check it. I do check it fairly regularly. I have a mobile device, but it doesn't need to be, bing, I have a message now, jump on it. It's more of a, 30 minutes, an hour, it's fine.
Yeah, Remy, do you have any thoughts on that? I forget whether you use your work email on your phone too.
Well, that's not the case, but I do get a lot of email because, I'm an email marketer, so I've signed up for a lot of newsletters, of course. I just have my work email on a desktop client, on Outlook actually, but for my personal email, it is indeed an advantage to use the priority inbox, and it could be taken even further to have some sort of a triage system. Beforehand, when you got 20 or 40 new emails in a single day, sometimes you really need to open them to see whether you need to take action or whether to do whatever with them, and it takes time. So, it might be an option to have a look into expanding on the priority inbox stuff, or a pre-inbox screen, so to speak, and to see, well, these are private emails, these are worker emails, and these are emails that really need attention. Just an example, so well, I've got 40 or 20 emails, but only 3 need attention right now, and the others I can save for later, because on my mobile phone, on my cell phone, I only take time for just a few minutes to handle email. I don't, well, send and write and read everything on my mobile phone. I either use the iPad or the desktop client to read all the rest of it. I personally don't use a desktop client as such, just webmail, just Gmail, because, well, I love it and it's just fine to use everywhere. It's that simple.
I love
But
it
on a
too.
mobile phone, yeah, it would be fun to have a little bit pre-screen to triage the system to have a bit more efficiency in handling a lot of email.
Yeah, maybe Matthew or Nadav, are there any thoughts that, like, what are the things that you guys are thinking about when you're designing Gmail for mobile as far as workflows?
Well, I'll go ahead there, and I think we heard a couple people describing the sort of differences or hierarchy in terms of how they use the devices. Mobile is for quick triage. iPad can be for triage or more in-depth work, iPad or any other tablet. And then I know Jesse described using the sort of power features that are on desktop. And really, it's one of the things that the challenges we face and the things we struggle with all the time are how do we get the best power features pushed down onto mobile, onto a tablet, without overwhelming what is a much smaller interface. And so that's really one of the top things, and I think Nadav will agree, that we work on every day trying to figure out how to make each interface the best it can be while not making it too complex such that as soon as you open it up, you're faced with 27 different options.
Yeah, I agree, and I think we have the challenge also of trying to be good with all the types of users. Some users who have only 10 or 20 emails a day, and the power users, and we don't want to overcomplicate. And versus, we don't want to have thousands of settings that you can tweak later. We want to make sure that the default interface is good for as many users as possible.
Sorry, were you going to say something, James?
Yeah, I was just going to jump in and say I run my own business, and so therefore having email coming in on my phone is very, very useful to me. And actually I've got about 4 or 5 email addresses all bouncing into the same email box. And one of the nice things is being able to reply from that particular email address, whether it's on my phone or on my tablet as well. So that's been really, really helpful. I mean, I certainly find when I'm sitting in front of a desktop that using filters, using automated ways of spotting, what some of the emails are coming in are about are very useful. And I think one of the things that I miss on the mobile client is not being able to basically go, oh, actually, if you get another email from this person, then you should do this with it. You should, stick it in this label or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
But having said that, it's incredibly useful to be able to. I use it mainly actually for getting rid of spam, getting rid of the mails that I'm not particularly interested in, so that by the time I get back to the desktop, I know that all of the emails which are still waiting for me there are emails that I have to write a sensible long reply to, and so I can do that very well with the mobile phone. Particularly important here in London, because of course we have the London Underground, what other people call a subway, and you have no internet connection down there whatsoever. So actually, it's really useful using that time, using a 20-minute drive in, 20-minute journey into see a client, to be able to go through your email, to be able to get rid of the dead stuff and prioritize some of the responses that you want to make.
I have the exact same situation in Toronto with the subways. Exactly, and I have a 20 or 30-minute journey to a client some days, and it's the exact same issue where I need that offline access. So, and the ability to sort of triage the mailbox on the go.
Cool. So I think we've mostly talked about kind of your mobile devices, and I know a couple of you are tablet users. Do you use your tablets on the go as well, or do you mostly find yourself using your cell phone on the go and your tablet elsewhere? Kim, I saw you nodding there.
Yes, I actually prefer to do Gmail on my tablet because it gives me more space to work with. On my cell phone, it's a little bit slow for some reason, but on my tablet, it I have basically the same type of speed that I have on my desktop. And I was just sitting here, you know, kind of scrolling through to see if there are any features that really stand out to me. And I would say being able to have all of my Gmail accounts coming in. I only have 2 right now that I have coming in. But having the ability to set up different settings for each account and have a notification on specific folders so that when I do set up filters, those folders where emails come into, I get notified immediately, which is really great when I'm on the go. And just being able to control things like that on my mobile is very important to me.
Cool. You're an Android user, so Nadav, do you have any thoughts on kind of notifications in Android?
Well, it's interesting to me, I guess, for Kim and maybe the others as well. When you interact with the Gmail app, is it mostly after you see a notification, then you press it, and then you go in? Or do you decide, oh, now it's email time, when you're on the train, you open it up and you start going through it?
Mostly the first. I have my notifications on, but only visual, not all the audio notifications. And I sometimes try to push myself to only make email time when I actually should make email time, but it's like a trigger, you know? It's like, oh, look, 2 new emails, click, look. So the difference is with my work email, I can take time and like not look at my work email for 1 or 2 hours, but with personal email, it's more like a time difference. It might need a response within 15 minutes or half an hour, but on the other hand, if someone would want that, they could use other channels than email, but yeah, the Gmail notifications are great, so I love them, and I respond to them.
On the iOS side, just to talk about from that point of view, I think the notification issue is that you got the little red badge counts over every icon. And I think I've got this OCD mentality on iOS about, you know, I open my home screen, I've got to clear all the red badges. There's a red badge, got to see what it is and clear it off. You know?
It's almost like a game.
Exactly.
That's horrendous. I have to say, one of the things that I do is I turned all of the notifications off because otherwise it would always be on. I get so much email anyway. It would always be on, and so therefore what's the point? And so I leave all of the notifications off entirely, and that seems to suit me fairly well. It's interesting, you know, my girlfriend inherited my original Google Nexus 1, and she used to have an iToy prior to that, and she was there going, oh, now I understand why you're always on this phone, because there's so many notifications, there's so many things of going, please, you know, feed me. And so from that point of view, that was a very interesting observation. You were talking about tablets earlier as well, and I just wanted to, I have a lovely Android tablet as well, and one of the things that I find is I use that as a home machine. So essentially my laptop is for work, my tablet is for sitting around and playing with while watching the TV, and the phone is for, you know...
Not recently.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, I would rather you know, it's email. I mean, I used to set, when I worked in an office, I used to set my out of offices religiously and was then responding on my mobile phone, and I was thinking, well, why am I setting an out of office if they're still going to get a decent cogent email from me? You know, what's the point of that? So actually, you know, I would rather be able just to use the stuff that I already have on Gmail, and I do understand why some people might want to say, I'm typing this on a rubbish touchscreen keyboard, so apologies if it's all badly written. I understand that people might end up wanting to do that. That to me is a power user thing, rather than a standard user thing. And a standard user, I've got my signature set up with Google. Why do I have to type it in again on a mobile phone? That seems weird to me.
Not to mention, to me, the whole concept of these taglines was pioneered by, I think it was BlackBerry originally, with, you know, sent from my BlackBerry device, you know, on the so mobile network, and then Apple did it with, you know, the iPhone. And the first thing I just clear this out, because you know what, I'm not interested in getting free advertising to BlackBerry or Rogers or Bell Canada or Apple, as the case may be, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Manny, I know you're a BlackBerry user too, so that seems like a good segue for you. Oh, I think you're muted.
Well, the OS2 has only just been brought in, so I can now put in at least 10 addresses of mine and keep them all separate. Plus, I'm inclined to use the browser version as well, which means I can actually keep the signatures in as well. Makes no difference to me. BlackBerry does a little bit more than most.
Manny, do you want to talk a little bit about using the Gmail in your mobile browser on your phone? Because so far we've talked a lot about kind of the apps, but not so much about the browser.
Okay, on the phone I've got two ways in. One is using the BlackBerry push, which separates every account, plus gives me a folder for each, and everything comes through one messages folder so that I can read them all in one go. I can separate, they are separated out. Then can go in on the browser itself and use the web application, which means I'm using the desktop version. I have choices, and if I need a signature, it'll go in on the web application. If I don't, then I just type out from whatever folder it come into. Everything is totally separated.
Mm-hmm. And is this, remind me, are you using the browser on a tablet, and are you actually getting the full desktop version, or are you using a browser on a phone?
It's near enough and identical to the desk. This is on either the playbook, which is the pad, or on the phone. Makes no difference.
Mm-hmm. Sorry. I would say, Matthew, do you want to talk a little bit about kind of the philosophy behind the browser, mobile browser version of Gmail?
Yeah, so the mobile browser version is pretty standard across iOS, Android, BlackBerry. Playbook and the iPad get the same version of the mobile web. So it does enable you to have a sort of a common experience across all the devices on the web. Whereas on the native side, when we write the iOS or the Android app, we try and make those apps to be more in tune with the platform. So the Android app really takes a lot of its cues from what the Android type interfaces are, and similarly on the iOS side. It's actually something I'd be interested in hearing from our users who use more than one type of device. When you switch back and forth between Android and iOS, how do you reconcile the different swipes, different actions do different things on each platform, and the fact that in Gmail we try and reflect that? Does that help you, or does that confuse you?
I don't find it's a problem. Using both a Galaxy Nexus and an iPhone and an iPad, I don't find it's a big problem on the side in terms of the gestures, especially with ICS. Ice Cream Sandwich has gone a long way towards sort of making it a bit more intuitive than perhaps it used to be. I mean, I'm not new to Android. I've used it since, I guess, Eclair, I think, was when I first sort of went down that road. And I find the Gmail app's been gradually improving. The ICS version is very, very intuitive compared to what was there. On the iOS side, really, I've been using the HTML5 web app for Gmail pretty much since it came out a couple of years ago on the iPad as well. So when the native iOS app came out, a lot of people criticized it for being kind of just, a reworking, like a wrapper for the website. But honestly, the HTML5 web app has got to be the best web app I've ever seen for the iOS platform. And so who cares if you're wrapping it in, and providing some native functionality to it? It still works really, really well for what it does.
There's other people in here too who also use both iOS and Android, right? Or am I crazy?
Yeah, that's correct. I use my mobile Android, and I use the iPad. I must say that the mail client on the iPad with the Gmail is great because, well, it's simply the bigger screen, but also the layout. The lineup of the messages on the side, the sidebar, and the message viewing on the right gives you a bit more, how would you call it, a more fluent experience of navigating through the messages while you are actually also viewing a message at the same time. Just feels that bit more efficient, and also the option to say, well, just this one would be for later, so it would be a bit more advanced message handling because of the bigger screen. But yeah, on a cell phone, just 3.7 inches or 4 inches, that would be just too difficult to have that available. It would be impossible to have a good preview pane and that scroll bar. So forget about that.
And actually, if I can add one more thing, what I find with the iPhone 4S, like looking well, device to mobile device, Galaxy Nexus iPhone 4S in this case, it's a lot of the little inconsistencies that I find are more jarring than sort of the broad things. Like things like, for example, now on the Android side, you can choose a from address when composing a new email. That's not there on the iOS side, yet. Obviously, these are things that I'm sure you're all working on, but there's a lot of little things like that. Pinch to zoom gestures. The fact that the Android app doesn't seem to yet handle complex HTML messages without requiring sort of a lot of side scrolling back and forth, where that is now recently mastered in the iOS app.
Yeah, so I think the answer to Jesse there is not there yet, not there yet, not there yet, with the emphasis on the yet.
Yeah, I fully realize and accept that. I know you guys have been very iterative. I like what you're doing with it. I'm just saying that's the jarring aspect there, is that there's inconsistency in those little things.
And so you can expect to see changes in those areas. We're working on it.
So speaking of changes, I think that's a good segue into how do you guys find out when we, change things in these apps? Because, we do try to update them frequently. Are you reading blogs or news, or are you just following an update as soon as it does?
Yeah, I find that on Google Plus, and when I'm when I'm actually in the app, I'll see something new, and I'm like, oh, and I actually make videos occasionally when I find something new. Like, for instance, when the contacts for G Plus and Gmail were connected, I didn't realize that was happening, so I started deleting.
Yeah, I was like,
where all these people come from? So I made a video of how to restore deleted Gmail contacts, because a lot of people were doing that. And I find out basically when I'm using it. One of the things I notice real quick is that you can't access circles like you can on your desktop from your mobile.
And you're referring to circles in the label view.
As a filter?
Yeah.
When you're on your desktop from the browser, basically, you can access your circle emails, but you can't on the mobile.
I think that's an ICS, isn't it?
No, I don't think so, but I think it's like what Matthew said before. It's one of the things that we don't have yet. Mm-hmm. So the emphasis on the yet.
Yet. I love that, yet.
Yeah. So a couple of you get your news from Google+. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, well, indeed, Google Plus or the Twitter streams. I have my personal email blog, so anything new on email clients and everything, I post it there as well. And of course, read it from the official Google blog, the Gmail blog. And the funny thing is that some people immediately make assumptions that because something has been released either in the regular Gmail client or on the mobile Gmail client, oh look, well, if this is in there, well, this must be there too. And then I look at my phone and wait for the update. I think, wow, that's not a correct assumption, guys. Just read what they posted on the official blog, and then you know what's in there. But I'm very happy that you guys are blogging and writing about everything, because sometimes people, well, just make those assumptions or have no idea what happens behind the scenes. So I'm happy with that, to follow all that news.
Yeah, I'm subscribed to the blogs and Google Reader, so I get a lot of the news really in posts through there, but also as a, I'm actually an applications editor for iLounge.com, so I write about iOS apps for a living, and as a result, a big part of that is, the Gmail app, when it comes out, when changes come out to the Gmail app, I'm actually kind of looking for those. I mean, I get up every morning, hit the check for updates button in iTunes and do it about 5 times a day, so as soon as the Gmail app comes out, I'm probably going to see it, sometimes even before you guys have a blog post out about it.
So are you stalking Gmail?
Maybe we need a
perfect profile.
I mean, I certainly find with the ice cream sandwich folk with the Galaxy Nexus, I certainly find that I would love to see more updates to the Gmail client. I don't believe that the Gmail client's actually had one as yet, and so as a result, I'm always there going, I wish there was, I really hope that these guys are working on it, because you never see any changes, quite yet. I know it's early. I know that Galaxy Nexus has only been out for a couple of months, but it's one of those things where I do see every so often, the iPad has an update for Gmail, and you're thinking, what have they got that we haven't? I don't like to know that. So,
sounds like we need a fighting match between Nadav and Matthew here.
But it's true, there is an interesting disconnect between the products where I sometimes see, ironically, things come to the iOS app before they show up on the actual Android side, and it's not that that's necessarily a bad thing, and likewise, Android obviously has some things that iOS doesn't.
yeah, and indeed even that bizarre crayon writing,
Scribbles.
what is it that you call it?
Scribbles.
Yeah,
Scribbles.
yeah, scribbles.
Scribbles,
Which you get on the iOS version and on the web version, but you don't get on the Android version. And it's just, why would you do that? But anyway, I can.
Well,
kind of
I'll be fair to declare peace. Android's more tightly integrated. So there's more Scribbles apps you can use and send something to Gmail than you could on iOS.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. I mean, the one thing I would really like in the Gmail app here is some support for Google Tasks, because I use Tasks an awful lot within Gmail on the desktop, and there appears to be no support, no official Google support whatsoever for Tasks on an Android phone, apart from obviously in the browser, which is fine, but not so fine if you're on the underground. So from that point of view, that would be really helpful, and certainly send to tasks. There's a shortcut that you can do in the main desktop app to turn an email into a task. That will be so useful. And it's surprising how Google don't make a little bit more of that, because that if used well is a real killer in terms of getting yourself organized.
Yeah. You've identified probably the main reason I never seriously considered Tasks to be a viable solution for me was that it had no reasonable mobile access or synchronization.
So I do know there is a Google Tasks API now, and I believe that some developers have used that to write applications.
Yeah, there's a halfway decent app on Android called Gtasks, but what you can't do as yet is you can't turn an email into a task, and that's actually a really important, really useful thing out of Gmail itself.
See, you just told me about an app I didn't know about, Gtask, because I actually use a third-party app to manage my task, and it would be great.
It's a third-party app, Kim, but it talks to your Google account and gets all of the Google Tasks out of that as well. So and there's a free version, so can't be bad.
So it's called Gtalk. Mm.
Yeah, I'm a big Tasks user myself, so I can sympathize with that situation. I know what I usually end up doing is starring an email, and then when I get to my computer is when I usually mark it as a task. I don't know if you guys have done anything similar.
I use a label, same idea. I use a label called action. Everything goes to an action label, and I just triage the action label on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
I'm so impressed you've used the word triage 3 times now.
Triage.
Fantastic word, Jesse.
One more time.
Triage. Have you triaged your email today?
Well, I want to try to save a little bit of time for some extra questions. So I don't know, maybe we'll start with Nadav or Brittany or Matthew. Do you guys have any extra questions that you want to ask first?
Well, actually, I'll pick up one from the audience I saw on the stream there. Totally unrelated to Gmail, but the question is, Brittany, all those stickers on your computer, are they available to the public? And if so, where can you get them?
You can get them on the Google Store, a lot of them.
Can't hear.
Yeah, maybe try Nadav's mic. I think.
You can get some of them on the Google Store site, and then actually the Gmail sticker I have, I think like 4 years ago, Gmail did a campaign where if you wrote a Post-it note in, you could get a sticker. And my little sister and I actually did it, and this was way before I actually worked at Google. So I was kind of a Google nerd before I even came here. And I had saved it because I didn't know where to put it, and now it lives on my Google computer, which is kind of exciting.
Oh. We lost Android.
Oh yeah, Android is back. Don't worry.
I realized I was just thinking the comments because of what Matthew said, and I realized there's a question about my headphones, which are Sound Blaster headphones. I actually think they're quite big, and I look a little bit like an astronaut with them on, but it was the best way to kind of get a mic for this situation that it's close to my face so that you could hear me and not hear my typing. But
yeah, I guess one of the other topics we didn't go over is, we talked about how users listen to us in terms of how we
yeah.
the users. I mean, I'm not sure everybody feels that they're ever getting listened to at Google. I know it's a big company, and we don't tend to write personal responses to every request that we get. Not surprising when we have millions and millions of users. We do actually read a surprising amount of stuff. If you post something on Twitter, if you write a blog post, if you post something on Google+, the odds are pretty good that somebody here is actually reading it. Especially helps if it's titled Gmail on iPad or Gmail on my Android tablet.
Oh yeah, safe searches. Cool.
Yeah, but we do actually read a surprising amount of stuff, and I can tell you on the engineering side, one of the most satisfying things is when we see a user make a request and happens to be one we're already working on, and then we deliver it a few days later, such as perhaps might happen here, and then we get another blog post from the same person saying, "Wow, those guys were really listening," or "They just took my idea and implemented it the next day."
Yeah, we definitely do that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not always that fast, but we are actually reading all the comments, and we do take them all to heart. So, notwithstanding the fact that we can't respond to them, it is something we do read.
Cool.
One of the things that came up in my stream when I reshared the original post was the size of the file on a smartphone. And it's huge. It can get huge. And I used to have the original HTC Evo, and I was constantly having to delete and allow Google Plus to reconnect my contacts because the file would get bigger and bigger. The more people followed me on G Plus, the bigger my contacts file got. So one of the questions is, how is that something that will be dealt with in the future on how the contacts are handled so that it's not so big for smartphones?
I can start off that question, and then maybe Nadav might have something to add. In general, we know that the Circles contacts situation isn't perfect. It's something that the team has already started to improve. So, for example, what happened to you where you started deleting these extra contacts because you didn't realize that they were actually connected to your Circles, and then you lost some of your contacts from your Circles. We realized that that was confusing, and we've now it doesn't work quite the same way, so you won't destroy your Google Plus Circles if you start deleting those contacts. I know that on I use a Nexus, Galaxy Nexus, and I know that in the pure Android experience, I can say which contact groups I want to sync, so that I only sync the ones that have phone numbers, or I only sync the ones that the email addresses that are my contacts that I'm using, so that I don't end up syncing contacts that I don't need. But I don't know if Nadav wants to add anything to that.
Yeah, that was what I was going to say. At least on the, I don't know how it is on all the platforms, but on the Google experience, you can choose which to sync, which accounts, and even I think which groups in your Gmail contacts.
Correct.
And by other platforms, you mean the custom OEM versions of Android?
Not the pure Android experience.
Yeah, because I've tried to walk some people through the steps sometimes that are on a different, carrier-specific version of Android, and the buttons are different and the steps are different. So.
Cool.
If Matthew and Nadav don't have any more questions, or Brittany, we can see if you guys have any questions before we wrap up.
No, absolutely, go ahead.
Anybody? We've sat here listening to you guys and grilling you for the past
Well,
hour.
I got one question on Twitter from another email guy, an email nerd. He's talking about the Gmail Mobile and the apps, and he says, I'd like some support for media queries on Gmail Mobile. And media queries, that's some HTML stuff and CSS stuff, of course, but that's, of course, something from an email marketer's point of view and not from an email user's point of view. So it's more of a luxury than an interface thing. So it's all yours to either take it or say, well, the interface comes first, guys.
Yeah, I mean, we can definitely note that feedback.
Cool.
Cool.
And just a really little thing. I think. Sorry.
Oh, two at once. I heard Jesse open his mouth first, so let's go with Jesse.
Too fast. I was going to say just a little thing, and very quickly. I touched on this earlier, but and I know we don't want to get into feature requests. I don't think it's a big feature. I just want to point out that I think the most annoying little thing in both of the Android and the iOS side for the mobile apps is the lack of the remove label feature to work when you're looking at another label. Like archive works great, but for example with smart folders, I'm in bulk. I'm going through my bulk label, I want to just archive stuff from there, like remove the bulk label. Well, currently it's like a 2 or 3 step process to bring up the labels list and then sort of tap to uncheck the bulk label and apply that, as opposed to having like a one-touch button like the Y key like I do on my keyboard with the desktop app.
Good
I
one.
think you and I have very similar workflows.
Yeah.
I also tend to put a lot of stuff in labels and then take them out as I go through. So I sympathize with that too. I don't know, and that was on iOS?
Both.
It's on both.
Yeah. I don't know if we have any.
I think that similarly, I mean, we're taking these comments into account, and we still have the sort of balance between what to make upfront, you know, a button that's permanent on the UI for everybody, for every single users versus the advanced users. So we're trying to balance it, and again, listen to the comments that you guys are making.
Well, in my mind, it would function like the archive button. I guess I know that there is, like, looking at keyboard shortcuts, there's the E button, of course, on the keyboard shortcut on the web app, but I never use it. I use the Y button because in the inbox, remove label is archive, and in another label, remove label is remove label, right? So I only use Y. I archive with Y.
Yeah, I do the same thing, but I think maybe what Nadav is saying is that we have users like you and me who use labels as labels and take them, you know, off and on, and we understand kind of how that relationship works. And then we also have users who are maybe newer to Gmail or less advanced as far as how they use functions like archive or labels. And you know, if they remove that label, you know, might not understand where their message had gone to. So I think maybe like in making these design decisions, when you were deciding like what is the permanent, you know, button to put on the interface, is it the one that, you know, suits one use case or suits the other use case? Because it can't easily be both. If you have one button, it either has to always archive or it has to always remove the label, right? So
or the button like the web client changes function depending on where you are. Like the label, the icon for it changes. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know, Nadav. I don't know if you wanted to add anything more to that.
I don't have
or Matthew.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think Nadav makes a good point. It's always a challenge of what do we put into the interface that reflects what the majority of users are going to use. I mean, in this group, I suspect a lot of people do use labels, are familiar with what archive does. As much as archive and labeling are a powerful feature, they're also one that are not well understood by a lot of users, and it's something that we try and educate users about. And so it's a constant battle that we have in terms of what we can put in front of the users and allow people to understand versus what the power users, which you know are a strong and very important community, and what we can provide them.
Yeah, I once had a TomTom sat-nav, and the interesting thing with the TomTom sat-nav was that it had a button deep in the settings marked "Turn on Advanced Features." And once you found it and you turned on advanced features, oh my God, you could do so much more. And I think certainly when you, I was using some of the Apple Store's free bandwidth in central London. Come, we need your tourist money. Earlier, and what's interesting there is they were teaching people who were brand new to computers how to use an iPad. And that was one of the most eye-opening things, just sitting in the same lecture theatre as all of these people who had not the faintest idea, you know, what this button did that actually sent a new email. And I guess that we kind of forget that when we're there saying, I want a button that just does this. But actually it's not, it certainly isn't quite so easy. My question was actually going to be just in terms of, and really a question to Matthew, the man with the, is that a moose that you've got there?
That is a moose, yes. A leather moose.
Okay. Very nice, a leather moose. Brilliant, how googly. The question that I had really was around how do you find out what users want? I mean, you clearly do these kind of hangouts. Do you, you know, if there were people here that felt strongly enough to write blogs and things, what's the right way to make sure that Google sees, you know, feedback for Google Mail and for other things as well?
Yeah, well, so as you mentioned, we do these types of Hangouts. The engineer team is watching it, and right now they're probably implementing a very well-hidden button with advanced features, which will turn on a massive amount of things we haven't seen before. And now that I've made that joke, they're probably going to start doing it just for fun.
Okay,
Because they've got a month of April Fools.
I think we should say you have to access that by typing like A-A-B-B-A-B-A-B.
Oh.
A Nintendo shortcut, yeah.
Yeah.
Left, right,
no,
up.
I mean, so there's a number of different things that we do. As I mentioned, we do read as much as we can user comments in various different forums, and those different forums reflect a range of types of users. Geography, language, power users, not power users, heavy users, light users. The number of other things that we look at. Obviously, we're able to gather statistics on how people use the apps. So, for example, if we have a button and we move it, we can track whether usage of that button has gone up or down, and that gives us a lot of insight as to whether people are using it more or less, and was it because they could find that button where they didn't find it before? I mean, so myself and some of the designers, we always have a debate about our most often used buttons are the ones we have on screen, not the ones that are in the More menu, which seems extremely obvious. But is it because those are the most useful actions, or is it because those are the ones we put in front of you?
They're there. Yeah.
Right. And so we can run experiments behind the scenes to make changes to some users and not others to see what effect it has. We can run user studies, so sometimes we actually have users come in, sit down, and we watch them go through using the app.
I wrote a blog post about that, actually. That was pretty cool. About the new Gmail interface. Yeah, that was pretty cool how that was. The tests were done with people just using their Gmail, and you guys just following them. That's probably the best scenario for seeing how people interact, because there's a big difference when it comes to user interface and people saying what they do or what they want, and people what they actually do, how they use something, how they use the interface. I mean, I might want a feature, but when I get it, I think, actually, I'm just doing this, so the feature is nice, but don't use it that much. So that's a big difference, and tracking it that way is really cool.
Yeah, so we do all these things, apply a bit of experience, and then throw in a little bit of fun when a bunch of people get together and say, wouldn't it be neat if we just had this one extra little tidbit? And so sometimes we just go ahead and implement that too and throw it out there. And
that's where Scribbles came from, isn't it?
So Scribbles had the benefit of both being on the fun category as well as having some interesting use cases for it. So, I mean, really, I obviously it got brought up here because a bunch of people noticed it, and you guys kind of either fun or useful.
Yeah.
Okay, where can I find Scribbles? I'm quite sure a lot of people may have that question.
You can find Scribbles by using... Oh, sorry, go ahead. I don't know, Matthew, you wanted to...
No, go ahead. I was actually going to have one of the users do it, because then we'd find out whether we put it in a place where it was obvious how to find it.
Okay, who knows how to find Scribbles if you are not using an iOS device?
I saw one hand up there.
I saw James' finger go up.
I just found it on the. I've never used the web interface for Google Mail on this phone, but I've used it, and there appears to be a weird scribble button when you try sending a new email. So I'm guessing in there then.
Look, a new button. What does that do?
Whoa.
Advanced users, click this.
Oh no.
That's correct.
So now you're going to make me go in and try it.
Oh, it works quite well, vaguely. Look at that.
Beautiful.
I've actually used it for practical purposes, like napkin-style drawings at the restaurant table.
I find that hard to believe.
Great. Well, I think we have time for maybe one more question, and then I think we'll go ahead and wrap up. So who wants the last question of the day?
I'm desperately trying to think of something witty to say.
I saw Felipe put his hand up. Did you have one?
No,
or are you just stretching?
Actually,
I've got one.
I think that it would be nice if you could schedule to send messages on our mobile phone. It's mainly because here in Brazil our 3G coverage is not very good. So sometimes I would like to type a message, and when I get the signal or set a time for sending it. I know that on the desktop we have plugins and applications to do it, but not on mobile.
Yeah, I could be wrong. I think some of those applications have mobile apps as well. Nadav, is there anything that you might want to say about you sending from the Android app with like a flaky?
But I feel like you can send it when you're offline, and then it'll just stay in your outbox and leave whenever you get connection, if that's the main issue. If it's not a specific time that you want to delay it 5 hours or something, and it's just connectivity, I believe that you should be able to just press send, and it just waits until you have connection.
Yeah, we'll sit in your outbox until you get connectivity again.
Right. Good. Cool. And for scheduling, for sending it in a specific time.
Yeah, so that
we don't have it yet, but
yeah, so that I don't think we have yet. I don't know if Nadav.
Yeah, I use Boomerang on the desktop, but I don't do anything with it on the mobile.
Yeah, this is not a current feature. I think some apps let you do that, and like from the desktop side, you can do different things like this. But again, we'll take this comment into consideration. And I think in general, I mean, you can about feedback. You can always the best way I think to get to us is also if you want to have a comment about Gmail, and all of you guys had a lot of great comments. The more direct way to us is like if you use the feedback button inside the app, if you have that, or go to the specific Google Plus page of Gmail, rather than just putting it on your own blog and then hoping that we'll catch it somehow. I think the best way, if you really want to get directly to us, is to find those channels, which we're trying to make as easy as possible to you guys.
And we read the market comments and App Store comments, to find out what different people are saying. So yeah, right now in the Android Gmail app, yeah, there is an area for you to send feedback to, directly in the app.
Yeah, no, apologies for leaving that out. So in the Android app, remind users where it is.
It's if you go to settings.
Right there. In the about send feedback. Here you go.
And fairly similar in the iOS app. There's under settings. There's a send feedback link.
You're not going to implement the cool new thing the Google Plus app has on iOS, where you can shake to send feedback.
We haven't implemented that yet.
Yeah, well, I think it's very clever because somebody's frustrated with the app, they're going to shake their iPhone and say, "Oh, send feedback." Okay.
Great. I know I said we were going to go, but I know Manny had one last question. We'll squeeze it in real fast.
Only question is, why was the Gmail app actually dropped from BlackBerry?
That's for me. So I guess we saved a tough question for last. So the Gmail app on BlackBerry, which you're familiar with, it was a Java-based application written really a long time ago. It's actually older than any of the other apps that we had. It was written in a time when Java was the dominant platform, and Nokia and RIM were both the dominant platforms based on Java. Both of those companies have chosen to go in other directions, and so essentially the areas that the app really had no future as it was, and we'd really been investing heavily as a company in HTML5 and web technologies, and so we really had to make a decision at some point as to where we put all our effort into and what's the platform that we're going to continue to improve and continue to provide a better experience for our users, and that was really HTML5 and web-based approaches. I like Sarah's waving to get the light on.
Sorry, the light sensor keeps flipping off.
Yeah, but very basically, that's the reason. We really had to take a look at where we'd invest our resources and what would give the best experience to users. And the BlackBerry app was no longer going in the right direction. And it's unfair to call it BlackBerry app. It was a Java-based Gmail app. We still certainly, as you mentioned.
I used it. It was very, very good. But its time has clearly come, yeah.
Yeah, I used it as well in the past. And it was a great app for its time. Now there's new technologies and new directions, and we're heading in them as fast as we can go.
Great. On that positive note about moving on to the future, let's go ahead and wrap up this Hangout. I just want to say thank you again to the members of the Gmail team who joined us, and especially thank you to Manny, Felipe, James, Jesse, Kim, and Rami for joining us and sharing so much with us.
Sure.
I hope you guys all have a good day or a good evening wherever you are.
Have a good evening.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye, guys.
Bye.